Breaking news from Capitol Hill in Washington, the government won't be shutting down. The United States Senate just voted 54-46 to pass the short-term spending bill known as a continuing resolution. It funds the government until September 30th. The House passed its own version earlier in the week, which means the bill now heads to President Trump's desk to be signed. The deadline to pass all of this was tonight at 11:59 p.m. Congressional correspondent Kilmeny Duchardt joins me now. She has been following all of this from the Capitol all day. Kilmeny, busy day.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, Tom. Yeah, it was not without drama, and it was certainly down to the wire. The Senate just voting to approve that continuing resolution, that 6-month stopgap spending bill in a vote. 54-46. Republican Senator Rand Paul voting against that legislation. And the two Democrats that we can report right now that were yeses were Shaheen and King. So, of course, this now heads to President Trump's desk for his signature and approval. But the threat of this government shutdown has quite literally split Democrats here on Capitol Hill in half. That was because there were two very different approaches to this. House Democrats kept maintaining that they were very much united against this continuing resolution, believing that it would give the White House too much power over federal spending. And then you had, of course, that announcement late yesterday by the Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer saying that he was not in favor of this CR, but he agreed that shutting down the government would be worse. That's a lot of the sentiment that we heard from Democratic senators on this. But something unprecedented happened. House Democrats actually came back from their retreat in recess to lobby these Senate Democrats on Capitol Hill, begging the question about unity within the party right now. Here's an exchange that I had with the Democratic House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries.
House Democrats have been united in their opposition against this continuing resolution, but that's a different position that we're hearing from Senate leadership. How does this not play into those accusations that Democrats are not unified?
House Democrats remain very unified. Let me yield to Catherine Clark and Pete.
I think what we've seen time and time again is that we have come together.
But your party's not on the same page here. Schumer's arguing that a shutdown would be more catastrophic because the White House would choose.
I am telling you, our party is united on this front, that we will stand with the American people. And we are having a disagreement here.
Yeah, Schumer's entire argument was the fact that shutting down the government would give the White House power over which federal agencies may remain open. And it could, of course, create the argument for President Trump and Elon Musk that, hey, some of these federal agencies weren't necessary in the first place. That was a worse alternative for Schumer. But to see the backlash and the outrage that we saw from House Democrats, including Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, that came very much out on the side of House Democratic leadership here, that is really widening the split that we have seen. Important to note that it was 10 Democrats that voted to break the filibuster on this. They didn't need 10 for final passage. That's why we had 2. But ultimately, this did get across the finish line. Tom?
Real quick for me, Kilmeny, what happens now in this process? Do they now continue with debating the reconciliation bill? This presumably will go to Trump's desk to be signed. Give us a little bit of a flavor of how they move on from here.
Exactly. This is a 6-month continuing resolution that continues to fund the government at 2024 level. So this expires in September. This is when presumably Republicans are hoping to push forward a larger budget resolution that has all of President Trump's priorities, one big, beautiful bill, and that is being worked on now. In fact, just this week, Republicans on the Senate Finance Committee were at the White House meeting with President Trump to hammer this out, and presumably we're going to see some progress on it in the weeks ahead, but probably not something until May on that, Tom.
All right. A lot of work left to do. Kilmeny Duchardt, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.